Okay, so we realized yesterday as we were sitting in our regionals meeting, uh, talking about the budgeting process, that we had a lot of new faces and folks that either recently been promoted or kind of come into the manager role and may not have had experience doing a budget in OneSite. And a little bit last minute, but we wanted to put this together just to do a quick crash course, just kind of show you where, first of all, you find it, how you get in there, start editing things, and what all the different sections are, and how you can, get everything going. So, starting from here, this is kind of the Horizon Central section, but since most of you will probably just be doing one property, we can go ahead and just kind of hop into one. So let's go ahead and I'm going to do Crossing Place, um, just because I'm a little bit familiar with that one, and we'll kind of jump into that profile to start. And then the first thing you're going to do is go to the budgeting tab up here at the top. And that is going to bring you to the budgeting section. And what we're going to be editing is the 2016 budget, which is right here. It says conventional, but it's conventional or student. Don't be thrown off by that. So you're going to find 2016 budget and make sure that lines up with your property, and then we're going to hit edit. And that's going to bring up this screen, which is kind of the sort of main overview of sort of everything as a snapshot. And so, first right off the bat, just kind of some basic info up here is our units, our square footage, which year we're in and which model it is. And then this is just sort of a snapshot of, kind of, we've got actuals, which is kind of populating through this year. So we've got sort of our 2015 actuals and then comparing that against a future budget. Just kind of gives you a quick snapshot of that. But one of the first places you want to start is this property questionnaire. The easiest way to kind of work through everything is to just sort of go down the left-hand side here. You got every section pretty much, in order of how it flows on the operating statement. So you kind of start here at your market rent, and then your loss gain to lease, which gives you your GPR. You're going to set up your renewals and then your occupancy throughout the year, and that's going to give you your income. And then you're going to go through these expense sections, which will start to fill out parts of that. And then where you probably will do most of the editing is this right here in the other section. It's account by account. And so a lot of it is done through the worksheets, like payroll, for example. You kind of input each employee and what they make and bonus and all that sort of stuff, and it'll automatically put that in the budget. But then for your individual line items, like, let's say your landscaping, any of those individual admin line items, that's all going to be entered in account by account. So those are kind of the main areas that we're going to look through. But we're going to start with the property questionnaire. And this is just some basic info about the property. You shouldn't need to change much here. In fact, you probably shouldn't. Stuff like these methods here, rental income, worksheet, the market rent method. We want to kind of just leave all of those constant. The one thing that I would edit here is you can come in here and set these two numbers: percent of market rent for new move-ins, percent of market rent for renewals. So if you have your rate set and you know that, okay, we're going to have, our renewal rate is going to be $4.99 and our market rate is $5.19. What you would do is you would divide that $4.99 by $5.19. That would give you 96%. So your renewal rate is 96% of your market rate, and you would just go ahead and go in here and change that and put 96%. And what that's going to do is when that populates the income section, it's going to know that, okay, I'm doing a 35% renewal and at a rate that's going to be 96% of market. So when it calculates GPR, that's all kind of going on in the background. Not super crucial, but you know, it's one thing you can go in here and enter. If you're not super familiar with it, or you don't want to, you know, mess with that too much, you can just kind of leave it as it is, and then, you know, make those changes after the fact. So if you're in doubt at all, just kind of leave it as it is, and just kind of talk to your regional manager about, you know, how we should approach that. So I'm just going to leave that there and hit save and close that out. So the next section you'll want to do is market rent by unit type. It's when you do it for the first time, it's going to have this little pop-up which will ask, do you want to update the unit information? And what this is going to do is just kind of pull in the physical unit data into the budgeting system. So we're going to hit load, and so that's pulling all 384 of our bed spaces into the system at the market rent. So you know, market rent is $489. We're going to leave that as it is. We're going to say that's going to stay constant. So you can see here at a $489 rate, 384 beds, that is going to correlate to $187,776 in market rent. So you're going to put that in. If you had, now Crossing Place has one unit type, it's all 4x2s. You know, you're going to have each floor plan here if your property has more than one floor plan. So that'll give you the ability to edit that. Another thing is for a student property where you're going to have a new market rent as of, let's say, August, when your new move-ins happen, you can go in here and say this rate is going to go to $499. So you can go in there and change that to $499, and you can see that's going to change that going forward. So we're going to have $489 up until July, then it changes to $499 through the end of 2016. So you go ahead and hit save. You can see here how that's going to increase the market rent by roughly $4,000. Shows you it's a 2% increase, $38.40, and so we're going to save that, and that's going to pull forward now to the budget. So your very top line is established, and that's your market rent. Now, it would be great if we would always get the market rent, but we know that's not the case. We've got loss to lease on the rent roll. We've got leases that are below market. So here's where you account for that in this loss gain to lease section, right below market rent. It's going to pull up this screen, and here is where you can make adjustments up or down. I think you actually have to do another section. You have to do your renewals before this is going to pull forward. So I'm going to shift gears here really quick and hop into renewals. And so if you are on OneSite, we've got some properties on Entrata, we've got some properties on OneSite, more properties on OneSite than Entrata right now. So for the majority, this is going to be applicable. But what this will do, this is hooked in with OneSite, so it is pulling in your actual expirations. It knows when your leases are expiring. And so, you know, here, for example, it's showing that, you know, July of next year, we're going to have 348 leases expiring. So what you can do is you're going to go right here into your lease renewal percentage, and you're going to say, let's say we want to do a 35% renewal. Going to put that in there, and so, sorry, I need to do it in August, and so that's going to show you're going to have 122 renewals out of those 348 move-outs.
So the people on Entrata, what are we supposed to do different?
So that's a good question. What you can do is instead of um, ins- you can kind of fool the system. So I'll show you how to do that. Right here, basically this lease is expiring. If you're not on OneSite, this is just going to show a 0. It's not going to have that data in there. So what you would do is right here, there's a line called additional leases expiring. That's going to allow you to add those. So what you would do is you would go look at your rent roll. You would see when your expirations are. And so for a conventional property, you're obviously going to have many throughout, throughout each month rather than just all in one month. So what you would do is come in here and say, we've got 5 leases expiring in January, 10 in February, 8, 15, 20, 25, and go like that. And then what you can do is, let's say you typically renew 50%. You can just go in here and add 50 across the board. And then so that's going to show you here out of your, 10. That doesn't look right. It's calculating 3. But so by doing that, it's going to give you, it's going to allow you to back into those numbers by sort of hard coding those numbers in there. Does that make sense?
Yes, so if it's a military market, we should wait to do those renewals right before the budget's turned in, since 30 days deployments get them out of leases.
Yeah, I think in that scenario, obviously I think it will be, it's going to be an interesting conversation between, based on how the regional wants to budget that, I guess. But I would account for it by, obviously look at your history and what you have been doing, typically seasonally in terms of turnover. But I would budget on the conservative side, just to assume that, if we've historically renewed at 35%, we've had this, higher turnover. I'm going to budget for 30% renewal, just so I've got some extra cushion, because it's uncertain. It's we've got this ability of a 30-day opt out, and anything can kind of happen in that world. So I would sort of trend that renewal down, just to kind of give a little extra cushion, and that's all going to depend how that shapes up into the whole budget as a whole. But that's kind of where I would start from.
Great, thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and just back that out really quickly, and go ahead and set that back at 35. Okay, so right down here at the bottom, it shows you here 35% retention, 58.9% turnover, which doesn't really add up, but that's okay. So we're just going to hit save. Then we're going to hop into occupancy vacancy. And here's similarly, you're going to kind of look at it month over month. And there are 2 ways you can do it in this system. And they're right up here at the top. You can do occupancy goal percentages, or you can go by actual move-ins, move-outs. So the easier way of doing it is the occupancy goal percentages. So you're going to say we want to be 95% occupied, across the board every month. So you would go ahead and put 95% in there, and so that's going to populate 95 across the board. And so 365. This is kind of the 95% range. It would be 365 out of your 384 total units available. Um, and so, this is a student property, so we would, in all likelihood, budget a higher number. So let's go ahead and do 98 and just kind of run that across. So that's going to be our budget number. And let's say, during the summer months, we're going to see a little bit of fallout. There's going to be some skips and so forth. So maybe in May, it's going to go down to 97 and a half, and then June 97, and then we'll stay at 97. And then in August, we're going to fill back up to 98. So that kind of brings it updates this average for the year. It's right around 97.8, and you can see how that plays out. But definitely for student, I would recommend budgeting for that little bit of fallout over the summer, and definitely look at your history to verify that that's the case. But I can say universally in Texas, we always see that phenomenon where we've got a lot of skips and move outs and so forth. So, definitely a good thing to budget for. And it's sort of the whole mentality that's very healthy to have in the budgeting process, which is, to be a little more on the conservative side. We don't want to sandbag our budgets, but at the same time, it's always better to under-promise and over-deliver than the other way around. So, definitely be conservative when you're looking at those sorts of things, especially when there's historical basis for it. Which, if you obviously lose, 1 to 2% over the summer, it's definitely good to include that in there. So we've got our occupancy percentages across the top here, and it sort of shows you in terms of move-ins and move-outs what that amounts to. And then down here, this is showing you your turnover. So, right here you've got, 58, 59% that is being turned there. So, so that's all accounted for here. If you've got any additional units, I would probably only enter the model here. I wouldn't add any administration or employee units. I think you can add those in. When you do payroll. So if you've got kind of a rent credit, that can be processed in that section. But crossing place, we do have a model. So here we can, it's actually leased through December, but in January it's going to open up again. So we'll go ahead and put 4 beds offline for the model up through August of next year. And then we'll plan to have a short-term lease for August through December of next year, and then it'll go back to 0. So, that's going to be accounted for in the numbers as well. And you can see down here at the bottom, this is going to be your occupancy after all of your other income lost, your non-revenue units, your vacant units. Kind of adds that all up, and here's what that's going to look like month over month. Everybody following along so far? Any questions? Okay, no questions. Just one last thing. You can hop into here as well. It sort of depends on how much history we've got for each property, but you can look at the actual numbers and sort of see historically what has happened. Here it's got your 2015 turnover. So as I was mentioning, you can see there's some fallout here. A third of a point, a half a point, an eighth of a point, or 0.8% over these summer months. So you would definitely look at that and say, hey, I need to budget for a little bit of fallout, through those summer months. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. And once it saves, we will move on. Okay, so usually this will pull in your current rent roll, and it will calculate based on this market rent what your loss to lease is to get you to your GPR. It looks like it's not doing that right now. So what you would want to do is kind of look at your operating statement or your rent roll, look at what your GPR is or should be, and then subtract that from your market rent that's shown right here. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go into accounting real quick, just to kind of show you the process. I'm going to pull up Crossing Places operating statement and what our current GPR is, and then we're going to subtract that from market rent, and that's going to tell us what the loss to lease should be, kind of how you would calculate that, input that in the system so that we're budgeting the right GPR. I'm going to go ahead and pull the operating statement here. Crossing Place, and we'll just go ahead and use this month's Okay, so our GPR is 182,925, right there. So let's go ahead and do this on our handy dandy calculator. So 187,776 is the market rent. 182,925 is our GPR. So it is a total loss to lease of 4851. And you can see here it's calculating the loss and the gain. So the net between the two of these is this 4851. So you want to use the net number because, unless I'm mistaken here, you don't have the opportunity to put in both, right? There's no loss and gain. So what you want to do is just put in that net number. And that number is 4851. So right here is where you're going to make that adjustment. 4851. Oh, needs to be a negative. And there you go. It's showing you right here market rent, loss gain to lease, and then 182.95 is our GPR. Make sense?
Can you do that one more time really quick? Sorry.
Sure. So what we're doing is we're taking our market rent, which is right here, and that matches up with what's over here, right, which is a rate of 489 times 384 beds, gives us that number. Then we're coming over here, taking that number, which is market rent, 187,776. We're going to subtract what our GPR is, which is 182,925. And so the loss to lease is 4851.
Is it better to calculate out your loss to lease at the beginning of the month or the beginning of the or at the end of the month?
You know, for a conventional property, I think you'd want to use the end of the month. For a student property, beginning of the month is probably fine. You don't have that much move in and move out activity, whereas a conventional property you would. So if you did select the end of the month statement, that's going to have probably your most accurate and up to date number. So yeah, good question. So we got that 4851 as our loss to lease. We are going to come back over here to this loss to lease section, and we're going to input it right there. Make sure you make it a negative because it's a loss, so it's being subtracted from market rent, and that is giving us our GPR of 182,925, which, as you can see here, oh, it's not going to let me do that, but that matches up. 182,925 matches up with the operating statement, which is right there. So that is your loss to lease. Now you're going to save that and close out of it. So with what we've done so far, We've got most of the income part done now, and we've kind of breezed through it. There's a lot more to it as far as determining what the rates are, what the occupancy is going to be. We took sort of a simple run at it, but those are the inputs right there to give you your rental income section. So once those things are done, you can come in here, and there's two sections that are good for checking your work, and they're right here: the budget detail and the budget summary. The budget summary is going to give you just kind of the major categories, and just sort of give you that overview, and it's going to compare to your 2015 number. So showing you the big picture, just kind of the super categories here, not the detailed line items, but it shows you right here your GPR and what your forecast for 2015 is. So the way I would look at this is I would come in and see what the change is, and that kind of gives you, shows you some red flags if there's something wrong that you need to get back in and change. And if you look right here, GPR is at 2.2 million, and 2015 our forecast is at 2.6 million. So that's a 15.9% decrease in our GPR. So that doesn't look right. So we put all the inputs in, we came in, we looked at what the output is, and we saw something's wrong, something's off there. So first thing I would do is close out, and I'm going to go into this account by account section. And what that's going to do is allow us to look at the detail and see exactly what's happening in each of those line item categories. So let's go to account by account, and we're going to go in and see what's going on with our GPR that's making it show a decrease from last year. And right off the bat, nothing looks out of line here. It's very simple inputs right here. It's got our market rent, our loss to lease, and then there's the GPR, which is exactly as we input it. So sometimes, and this does happen, and so it's good for you guys to be aware of this, because all the stuff we were doing on those worksheets where we were inputting occupancy, loss to lease, market rent, that stuff pulls forward into this section. But in this section, when you go into a line item, there's also the potential for adding or subtracting from it separately, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to go into market rent, and you can see right here, these numbers are being pulled in from the worksheet. We can't edit them, we can't click into them. If you click on this section right here, it pulls up that market rent worksheet, which is what we did right here. And you can make changes here and then save it, and then once that happens, it's going to pull it back through to here if you had made any changes, right? But in addition to that, you've got the ability to add or subtract from those auto-calculated numbers, which is right here. So let's say that for whatever reason we wanted to budget for an additional $2,000 in rent growth starting in August. So you would go in here and just add 2,000 in there, and then you can see this is going up from 191 to 193. This $2,000 is being added. So that's something you want to look out for, because if you've got numbers that are entered in here, these kind of hard-coded numbers, that can skew things for you, where if you think you're just making changes in market rent, but maybe you've got some of these hard-coded numbers in here that are added onto it, and if the numbers just aren't adding up, go in and check to make sure that there's no additional hard-coded numbers that are changing things, because that can screw you up sometimes. So and you may go in and you may just kind of put $2,000 in there just to see what it looks like, and then you save it and then you forget about it. And so when your GPR numbers are looking off, that could be the culprit. So definitely something to look out for, because that does kind of happen as you're just in there making changes. I'm going to go back and zero those out and save it. But this is accurate. So this is the right number as it should be. and just to do kind of a sanity test, I'm going to go to the annual, again, back to the operating statement for Crossing Place, and if I look at gross potential rent, year to date, we budgeted 2.125 million for 2015. So the fact that over here it's showing that the 2015 forecast number is 2.5 million or 2.6 million, that's off. So we need to figure out, the problem is not here, it's here. So we need to go and we need to see what's going on there. But I don't necessarily want to detract from what we're doing here to chase that down. But that's just kind of the process, the checks and balances, making sure that what you're inputting is, and what we're measuring against, looking against last year. How does it compare? Are we going up? Are we going down? Those are all important things in the output of the final product that we get that we want to check to make sure it makes sense. So we're sitting at about 11:40. I don't want to go over, so I'm gonna start jumping into the expense sections, kind of run through those, and then we'll do a little bit of the account by account stuff, and then hopefully have maybe 5 minutes at the end, and we can just kind of answer any questions you guys might have that have come up. So let's do that now. Let's jump into payroll. This is going to be one of your bigger sections. And so for some properties, this stuff will automatically get pulled in. For some, they won't. And some of them are going to be off. Here, Landon is no longer our account manager. Nicole is no longer our site manager. So it will automatically kind of pull what it was last year. So sometimes you need to come in and make some changes. So, let's say we've got Nicole in here as the manager. We're going to go in and edit employee, and we're going to change this to Megan. And here you can kind of go in and make those changes. You kind of input, whether they're salaried, whether they're hourly, budgeted overtime, bonuses, all those sorts of things. You can kind of do that on an individual basis. So I'm going to do change Landon over. I'm going to change it from Landon to Colby. I think I spelled his name right. And let's change that start date to, let's just make it July 1st, even though I know he was there before that. So you can put an hourly amount in here. Let's put $15 an hour. And everything else you can kind of leave as it is. And if it's salary, put that amount. If it's hourly, put that amount. But don't do both. Just have one of them blank. I'm going to go ahead and save that. Okay, so you see there it's changed it over to Colby. He's in there, account manager, and now I'm going to edit payroll. So I first edited employee. Now I'm going to edit payroll. This long sheet is going to come up, and we're just going to kind of work our way down, fill out all the applicable sections, and at the end of the day, it's going to give us his all-in cost in terms of his hourly wages, any bonuses, commissions, any potential, what his insurance cost is going to be, what the payroll fees are. It kind of calculates everything for that. So he's not salaried. He is hourly, so we're going to skip this section. Here's where you would put in if you were a salaried employee. I'm going to go ahead and put $15 here, and that is going to carry this forward. See this $15 across the board. One thing this does account for, so there's 2 months every year where you have 3 payroll runs, and so that's accounted for right here. So you got number of payroll runs. Most months it's 2, but April and September there's going to be 3. So that's an important step that sometimes gets missed. So that's accounting for that here. That in those few months, obviously there's 52 weeks in a year, 26 pay periods. So that doesn't break out evenly to 2 per month. So we're accounting for that here. You can input all this stuff up here, kind of beginning rate, hourly rate, and it's going to automatically populate that down here. So let's say weekly regular hours. He's a full-time employee, so we're going to put 40 hours here. And that's gonna calculate everything for us. We've got $15 hourly wage, $40 a week, or excuse me, 40 hours a week, gives us 2080, which is if somebody works a full-time load, that's going to be their annual amount of hours. And so it's giving you here his monthly pay, which is $2,400. And of course, it's adding an extra pay period in here in April, so you can see where that is being accounted for. Now let's say in July and August, we're going to have a little bit of overtime during the student term. So I'm going to go ahead and here and put weekly. Let's say July is going to have 2 hours of overtime per week, and then August, let's say he's going to have 10 hours, which that's quite a bit, but let's say 10 hours per week in overtime. So that's going to account for that time and a half right here. It's going to give you for the month what those hours are, and then what that wage is in time and a half wages. So it adds all that up for you and gives you kind of what their total monthly pay is here at the bottom. And then any notes you have, let's just say we want to put in increased overtime in August for student term. So we're going to add that in there. Housing allowance. Some people get a rent credit, and that's great. You can do flat or percentage. Sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't, but here, you can pull in the different floor plans and it'll give you what that rate is. Remember, this is our market rate here. So let's say he were getting 20% of a rent credit. Here it's going to add that in there, as a reduction off of that rent. So here it's $98 a month, and so each one of these items that we're putting in, it's going to get populated into the right GL account on the operating statement. So our wages for account manager, this is going to hit the assistant manager line item category. Here, the housing allowance, that is going to hit the the rent credit code on the financial. So all of this is mapped over to the right spot it needs to be on the financial statement. So something to keep in mind there. And once we finish this, we'll go over to that and see how it carries forward. So leasing commissions, if you've done everything on the front end with how many move-ins, move-outs we're going to have, it's going to pull that number in here. So here we've got number of move-ins, and August it's got the 230. So you can do, let's say we're going to pay out $25 per commission. This shouldn't be showing as that, but you can see here we're not going to charge him for those. August, 230 move-ins at $25. That's going to put $57.50 in commissions, and that's going to go right here. So you have the ability to do that. One thing I want to say really quickly on commissions, I find the best way to do this is not to give commissions individually on each payroll, on each person in the payroll section. What I like to do is take usually the leasing manager or one of the leasing agents and budget all of the commissions on that person, rather than saying, okay, this person's going to get 10% of them, this person's going to get 10% of them, and calculate it that way. I like to just take one person in payroll and just kind of assume that that person's going to get all of the commissions. Doesn't affect anything with the individuals, because it's just going to hit all in the leasing commission category. It's just going to be one lump sum amount. So it's just easier to budget that way if we say, just put all of the commissions on one person, and it's going to carry over to the financial as it should. So so there you go. You would just assume that Colby here is going to get all of the commissions, and that total amount is going to be $57.50. We're going to leave that in there, and it's going to carry over to the right spot. Renewal commissions, you can do those separately. It's going to pull in what the renewals are here. So 122 renewals here in August. And let's say we've got a higher commission for that. We're doing $50. So again, it's going to calculate that number here for you, and carry that over into the leasing commission category. He's an account manager, so here's the bonus section. He's an account manager, so he's going to have his bonus for bad debt, or excuse me, for delinquency. So we're just budgeting $200 a month. You can put in for some increases. You can just do multiple levels here, and it's going to give you total. So let's say we want to do a bonus for 98% occupied at the end of September, and that's a $500 bonus. So we can put that in. It's added into the total, and there you go. So I would recommend, if you have different bonuses for different things, putting them out individually, just so that you can kind of see them separately and make any changes that you need to. Utility allowance, shouldn't really need that, but if you do, go ahead and pop that in there. Benefits, here you can just kind of select. I think it's usually best to just kind of go to your payroll report and see who is getting benefits and who isn't. If somebody, obviously if they're part-time, I don't believe they're eligible, so that shouldn't be an issue. If they're a full-time employee, you can go ahead and input that here. So let's just say Colby's going to have kind of the basic single coverage. He's going to have the dental, and you want to add this full-time admin fee in there, and then we're going to add the health plan. So shows you the cost of that, each individual item, and it gives you sort of the monthly total. And again, that's going to carry over to the operating statement. Finally, once you save everything, it's going to calculate all of these, all of the payroll taxes based on what we have to pay. The accountants kind of determine all that, and so here you can see, based on what this person's getting paid, this is all of the payroll tax that's going to be a result of this employee. So that all carries over to the financial as well. So we've gotten through everything here. You can see here at the top, it has everything: the hourly wages, the overtime, bonus, a rent credit, your commissions, and then the benefits and insurance and payroll taxes, all kind of listed out there. So we've hit save. We're going to save this, and then once it does that, now let's hop over to let's go into account by account, and we're going to see how that carries over to the operating statement. So I'm going to go up here and just go into admin. Up here at the top, you can kind of jump around to the different categories. So you can see right here, everything we just filled out has gotten input. Assistant manager salary, so here are the hourly wages. His rent credit, here in the admin allowance. Here are his bonuses. So if we click into that, just to show you how it pulls through, here it's showing that it's coming from payroll right there. Payroll tax, insurance, so on and so forth, and there's one more right here, payroll fees. So so that's everything we just did gets pulled over into this section, and then you're able to sort of see how that all plays out. So does that make sense to everybody? Is there any questions on the payroll section? Everybody gets it. I'm just that good. Okay, beautiful. Okay. So the last thing I want to go through here, which is sort of what a lot of the manual input is going to be, it's in this account by account section. So again, it's right over here, account by account, and this is just literally every GL code that we have that's loaded in the system. And I want to walk through this section and look at a couple of particular items and show you how you're going to want to budget that and where you're going to where you want to determine your basis for how you get those numbers. So let's look into something like postage. So we're going to look at postage. I'm going to go ahead. Oh, Megan, I'm going to unmute you. You think you're muted. That might be why I can't hear you. Okay, I can't hear you, so maybe it's not that. Okay, go ahead and type it out. I'm going to just sort of walk through this really quick while you're typing. So postage is what we're looking at here. If we've got history, it's going to be in here, and I'm just going to simplify this a little bit, just to sort of show you how you would look at this. So, we want to determine what our postage is going to be, what our costs are going to be for 2016. We've got all this reference data. Okay, this is our historical data where it shows you, okay, in 2014 we spent $416 for the year. 2015 we spent $271 so far, and it shows you month over month what that expense has been. So, $15 last January, $30 last February, 31. So it looks like it's about $15 to $30. So we can just go ahead and input those same numbers here. 30, 30, 30. Let's go ahead and put just a 15 there to cover 15, 30. And so you can just kind of input those month over month using your history as a baseline to determine whether or not that's the right number. And so once you get that in there, totaled up for the whole year, you've got it in every month. 300 for the year, you're just going to go ahead and hit save. It's going to save that category and it's going to pull it through right here. So there you go, postage. It's got every monthly expense in there, and then shows you what the annual total is. So Megan's question, if we have staff changes, do we need to change that after budgets are submitted? The answer is no. Once the budget is kind of complete and officially stamped and all that good stuff, we're not going to make any further changes to it. There are some sort of extraordinary circumstances where if something was screwed up in a big way, we can go back and actually make those changes. But let's say we've got our 2016 budget set, and then it's April or May of 2016, and let's say Colby he's going back to school and he's going to quit or something like that. So at that point, we don't go in and make any changes to the budget. It's set for the year. We're kind of just working within that framework now. So we're trying to make sense of it and make whatever we have to do now fit within the context of our initial budget. Is that the question you were asking, or something different? Okay, perfect. Okay, we're getting close to time. I want to go through just sort of one more thing, one little tool I want to show you that you can use to calculate some of these categories. So let's look at office telephone as one category. So you can see here we've got what our actual numbers have been, kind of around maybe $800, $900 a month, but it is fluctuating a little bit. But most of 2015 it was kind of steady around $700 to $750. So if you want to say for any expense category, I'm going to look at last year's number plus a percentage. There's a way you can do that and have it automatically fill in. And what you do is you click in any one of these zeros right here, and then you go down here to calculator. And so you click calculator, and that's going to bring this up. And you've got a couple options here where you can make changes that'll fill it in across the board. Straight line monthly is one where if you said, okay, I want to just budget $750 per month for the full year. You put in 750 here, it's straight line monthly, and you hit calculate. It's going to fill in 750 per month for you. So you could save that, and it's going to drop that in right there. But let's say you wanted to look at, we'll jump back into calculator, and let's say you want to do an increase over last year. You can look at, so increase, decrease, monthly percent. You would click that, and then you would pick the reference data that you're using for the basis of that. So you want to do an increase, a 3% increase over what we did in 2015. You would click this, and then you would click 2015 forecast right here, and then you put in what your percentage is. So if it's 3%, what you're actually going to do is you're going to put 1.03, and that's going to increase it by 3%. If you were doing 4%, you do 1.04, and that's going to give you a 4% increase. So let's just say this is going to go up by 4%. We're calculating that. You can see right here, 2015, 735. We're calculating 4% higher than that for 2016, and that's this number right here, 764. So for some categories where you just want to budget for a set increase over last year, that gives you the capability to do that. It's this increase, decrease, monthly percent. You pick which year you're using, and maybe you want to use 2014 instead. You can do that. You just click 2014, put your percent in here, 1.03 for 3%. Hit calculate, and it's going to drop that number in there for you. You hit save, and there it is. You hit save again, X out of that, and there it is. There's your number. So a couple ways that you can input those things. The best way, kind of the last thing I'll show before, I know I'm going over time here, last thing I want to show is just how we would compare, once we feel like we've got those numbers in there, compare against last year to make sure there's nothing we've missed, right? You don't want to have a category in there that you missed, that we had an expense in 2015 and now we haven't budgeted for in 2016. Actually, the best way to look at that is we're going to go right here to all views and reports. Okay, all views and reports. We're going to click on that, and we're going to look at the detailed trend right here. It's on page 2 of this report section, detailed trend, and we're going to hit that. Give it a second to load. Okay, so we want to look at this, let's just say as a PDF. There it is, crossing place. You got to select the model, which is the 2016 budget model. Suppress zeros. If you don't do that, it's going to give you every single code, even the ones that you don't use. So let's go ahead and just hit that so it'll leave some out, and then include comments, which I want to come back to that too. But here you pick your reference data. So let's say we wanted to look at 2015, we want to look at 2014, and then we want to look at 2013. So it's going to give you 3 years of comparison for your current budget. So we'll go ahead and hit generate there. And here we go. It's pulled it up. I'm going to hit open. Pull it over here. And so here's the report we've got. It's going to give you, here's 2016 budget right here. Go ahead and zoom in a little bit. So 2016 budget, here's 15, 14, and 13. And so it's going to show you here what those changes are year over year. So as we mentioned before, this is a little screwy, but you want to look between these two, kind of see, okay, is GPR going up, going down? Over here, it'll show you the percent change, what that variance is. It's going down by 424,000, which is an error, but shows you the percent change here, which is 15.9%. Now let's go down and look at, the easiest way to do this, and this is the way that you want to make sure that expenses you have in 15 definitely get budgeted in 16, is you're going to go down, and this is our 15 column, and this is our 16 column. And you're going to look here for any items that are 0 for our 2016 budget, where we had an amount in 2015. So manager salary, we're missing that for 2016. Office telephone we put in there, but we budgeted a high increase. Okay, that probably needs to go back and be fixed. Office equipment, lease rental, 7,000 last year, and we budgeted 0 for it. So we need to go back and add that in. So this is a good companion to have as you're inputting those account by account numbers. You've got this as your guide as you're inputting them to say, okay, let's just go down the list. Dues and subscriptions. What are we budgeting for that this year? And you hop into that item. Evictions. What are we budgeting this year? So this is a way to make sure that you're not missing anything in your current year budget that you've had as an expense in the past. So use this as kind of a roadmap. It's the detailed trend. And if you have questions on how to get back to this or how to get this report, I will definitely just reach out to me. I'll show you how to get into it and access it. But it's through reports, all views and reports right here. You're clicking into that. You're clicking over to detailed trend. You're going to wait for it to load, because that's just what you do with OneSite. And then this all comes up. Budget 2016. You put in, 2015, 2014, 2013. Get your actuals in there, and then you hit go. Very, very important report to use in budget generation. It's definitely going to help you make sure nothing gets missed, and also allows you to see how it's changing, right? You wouldn't want to budget less for something that the expense isn't actually going down. Okay, last thing I'm going to mention, and I swear this time, I'm going to go right back into account by account, because this is something that's going to save you and your regional manager a lot of time as you are going through this process. But in any of these categories, you have the ability to input comments. And it is highly suggested that you do so. Because if your regional is reviewing this, and they will be, kind of going through this exact section and looking at each category and wanting to know, okay, office telephone, we're budgeting a $4,000 increase from 2015. Why is that? And so if you, as the manager, have gone in here, and it's right here in the section, comments, you hit new, you input, adding new phone service, that will cost, $400 a month more. Approved by Matt, which I probably wouldn't approve something like that, but be that as it may, you hit save, comment is saved in there. And now when I'm reviewing this budget, and Megan has put a comment in there about this section, that's one less thing now that I have to go ask her about, because she put her reasoning and a rationale behind it. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to go back and challenge it if it's an increase, from year over year of a significant margin. But if it's going up, it's going down by a reasonable amount, you put a comment in there saying, our contract stipulates it's going to increase to this, so that's what we've budgeted. It saves a lot of time on both sides having to go back and forth to figure out why certain changes happen. So it's a very good, almost essential part of the process to save your time and your regional's time just to kind of get your thought process out there. So that is the last thing I will leave you with. Hopefully, with that knowledge, you can kind of go through and begin inputting everything that you need to into your various budget sections. It's not going to end there. I mean, obviously, there's going to be revisions and going back and forth with your regional manager, that's going to be a process that everyone's going to go through. But hopefully, you've gotten a little bit of a walkthrough here of how to just get in there, start inputting numbers, and making changes. So, any questions?
Hello, Matt. This is Brittany from Centennial.
Hi, Brittany.
Hey, so we have two properties, Centennial Ridge and Centennial Village, and they're in two separate OneSites. Are we supposed to do two separate budgets, or how does that work with us?
That is a good question. Historically, it has been two separate budgets, to my knowledge. I don't know if that's changing, so that's probably a good question for Millie.
Okay.
And her and Lauren can kind of figure out the best way to go about that. If it makes more sense to do one budget, then they may go that route, but I'm not sure I can answer that for you. But in the past, it has been two, but it could potentially be one, so I would check in on that.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, who do I talk to if I don't have the budgeting tab on my OneSite? Do I just need to put in a help request to swipe it?
Yeah. Might be just an access issue, so I would email Clint and copy myself, and he should be able to, might just be like a user permissions thing or something like that, so he could probably get that fixed.
All right, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
And this, your presentation will be on Grace Hill for SharePoint?
Yes. It will. It will be on somewhere. And I will let everybody know where it has gone. Okay. Well, thanks for jumping on, guys. Definitely appreciate it. I think your regionals will appreciate it too. If you have any questions on any of the stuff we've gone over, just shoot me a Skype message, shoot me an email, give me a call. I'm happy to help with anything. It is there's a lot to get through here, especially if you're doing it for the first time. So if you feel overwhelmed, you just have a question, you need some help with something, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to reach out to your regional. They should be kind of working on this hand in hand with you. So, don't be a stranger. We're here to help, and just reach out if you need anything. Okay, have
Thank
a
you.
great day, great week, everybody.
Thanks.
You too.
Take care.
That's it.